Hi, hello, good afternoon everyone. I'm Dr. Harika Kishore. On behalf of Vista's Learning, I'm here as your biology educator. V-Learning, it's an online education platform which works with an ideology of providing quality education for all. Get your access where you are going to get all the upcoming, recorded sessions, live videos, concept videos, and also study material. Moreover, you're going to get this study notes, lecture notes in the form of PDFs. Get your access by logging on to www.v-learning.in and also get your acquaintance with all the channels which are available, and make sure to subscribe to the channel Vista's Learning Class 11 and 12. If you find this session useful and interesting, click on the like and share this session with your friends. And also don't forget to click on the bell icon so that you are going to get all the upcoming video notifications. Right. Now, in continuation with the last session where we have been discussing about the chapter Biodiversity and Conservation, right? That comes under the unit Ecology. So in last class, we have been understanding about the patterns of biodiversity, and also we have discussed about the importance of species richness that in turn with the area explored. Now, in this class, let's focus on loss of biodiversity. So, while we are discussing about the reasons, what could be the possible hypothesis that we can make the statement clear. What is the statement? There is a statement like, we can find more biodiversity in tropical areas when compared to the biodiversity that is present in temperate areas. So, the tropical areas will have more biodiversity. To make you understand this concept, there are some proposed reasons. Some possible reasons. In that, we come across about speciation. Speciation this is a process by which there is an addition of new species. That means there is a chance to increase the species biodiversity. Here, through the process of speciation, there is no confirm that whether there is an addition of the new species, but undoubtedly we can say that there is a loss of the species. That is what we can say we are going to study in loss of biodiversity. Biodiversity, as we already discussed, bio means living. Diversity, variations, varieties. So here, while it is doubtful, what is doubtful, whether a new species has been added to the already existing diversity, but it is undoubtedly we can say that there is a loss of species. That means there is a loss of biodiversity. So here, while it is doubtful if any new species are being added, whether it is added or not, that part we are doubtful, but it is very sure that whether there is an addition of new species is happening to the already existing Earth's treasury of species. Earth's treasury of species is nothing but Earth's biodiversity, right? So, it is very doubtful whether the new species has been added to the already existing Earth's treasury of species, but undoubtedly we can say that there is no doubt about their continuing losses. That means the species have become extinct. Extinct. No more in existence. So here, this point gives you an idea about how, at what rates there is a loss that is happening to the biodiversity. It is very clear that we can say there is a loss in the biodiversity, but it is doubtful whether the new species has been added to already existing biodiversity or not. So here, the biological wealth Biological wealth is nothing but biodiversity, variety of the species in terms of the plants, animals that do exist on our earth. Of our planet, Earth has been declining rapidly, decreasing very at a faster rates, declining rapidly. And for this, the reason for this is the accusing finger is nothing but pointing out finger. That is the reason is definitely clearly pointing to the human activity. So here we can understand that the loss is being happening to the existing biodiversity. The loss is being happening. It is happened and it is happening, and in future it is going to happen to the biological wealth. Biological wealth is nothing but Earth's biodiversity of a planet is Earth, right, has been declining rapidly. That means the loss is happening continuously. There is a loss that is happening to the health of the biological diversity what is present on a Earth planet. And the reason for this, why the loss of the biodiversity is happening, why the health of the biological communities has been affected, for all this thing, the single reason is human activity. That means the single accusing point is nothing but our human activities. Human activities where we are getting food, we are getting shelter from our ecosystem. That means the plants and the animal sources are providing us food, are providing us textiles, fibers, are providing us shelters. All these comes in the category of need. When it is up to the level of the need, no problem, because there is an existence of synchrony. Harmony is existing between the existence of the humans and the surrounding environment. But if this need is going to turn into greed, then the problem comes where exploitation is going to convert into over-exploitation. Then that is the point which leads to the damage, or which leads to the loss that is going to happen for our biodiversity. This is what all we are here to understand about the topic loss of biodiversity. Now, here, the colonization is nothing but establishment of human race. Here, the colonization of area, establishment of itself is here humans, establishment of humans in an area, and that area here is tropical Pacific islands. The colonization of tropical Pacific islands by humans, here the humans established their race in an area, and that area is here tropical Pacific islands, right, is said to have lead to the extinction of more than 2,000 species of native birds. Once the humans start colonizing, once the humans start occupying, once the human race started establishing their race in the area, it leads to the extinctions of about nearly 2,000 species of native. Native mean indigenous, which already exist in that particular area. So this is all happens because of colonization of humans in that particular area. So here, according to IUCN, International Union of Conservation International Union of Conservation for Nature and Natural Resources. Okay. IUCN, International Union of Conservation for Nature and Natural Resources. According to this, Red List 2004 document that shows the existence, the extinctions of about 784 species. totally 784 species, which includes 338 vertebrates, 359 invertebrates, and 87 plants have become extinct in the last 500 years. This is in according to the documentation that have been given by IUCN, International Union of Conservation for Nature and Natural Resources. So here, this is an evident to understand how fastly the loss has been happening to the biodiversity, right? Now, some examples of recent extinctions. These are all the list of the species which never exist now. These are all the species become extinct already. Example, dodo from Mauritius, quagga from Africa, thylacine from Australia, Steller's sea cow from Russia, and the three subspecies of tiger. Three subspecies of tiger. What are they? Bali, Javan, Caspian. Bali, Javan, Caspian. These are the three subspecies of tiger, and also including all this list. These are the list of the species that become extinct. That means they are no longer in existence. Now, in last 20 years alone, we have witnessed the disappearance, that is becoming extinct, of totally 27 species. Here, careful analysis of records shows that extinctions across taxa are not random. They follow some pattern in that some group of animals like amphibians appears to be more vulnerable, more sensitive to extinction. The pattern of the extinction is no more random. It is following a particular pattern, and in that we can say the amphibians are more and more sensitive, more vulnerable towards this extinction. Now, here, according to grim scenario, very serious of extinctions, the rate at which these extinctions are happening are very serious, are very leading to very dangerous scenario conditions. This is the fact that more than 15,500 species worldwide are facing the threat. That means soon they are going to become extinct. They are in the margin, they are in the threat of extinction, and sooner this large number of species are going to become extinct. Here, in that, presently, 12% of bird species, 23% of mammal species, 32% of all amphibian species, and 31% of all gymnosperms, plants. See, 12% of bird species, 23% of mammal species, 32% of amphibian species, and 31% of gymnosperm, that is plant species in the world faces the threat of extinction. These are all under the margin, that means near to the margin, that means they are facing the threat of extinction, and all this percentage of species are sooner going to become extinct. So this is how we can understand. All this numericals has made you to understand how fastly, that means what is the rate at which this loss to the biodiversity is happening presently on the planet Earth. Now here, from a study of the history of life on Earth through fossil records. Fossils are remains, we can say, remains of or imprints of the organisms which belongs to a geological generation, previous generation that do exist. That imprints can be on the rocks, we can say. If you study, if the study was made on the history of life on Earth through this fossil records are nothing but the remains of the previous geological generations. We learned that large-scale loss of species like the one we are currently witnessing has also happened earlier. The loss of, that means the loss of biodiversity, that means the extinction, what is happening, what we are witnessing presently, this is not the new one. The extinction already have been happened in the history also, and it is around 5 episodes, and we are presently at 6th episode, even before humans appears on the scene. That means even before the existence of the humans, these extinctions already have been happened, and it's been continued. So there are totally 5 episodes of mass extinctions of species that happen even before the human race comes into the existence. Now, as we already say, during the long period, that is more than 3 billion years since the origin and diversification of life on Earth, there were 5 episodes. 5 episodes. Episodes of mass extinctions of species. It is totally 5 episodes of mass extinction of species. Mass is which relates to the larger number of species. Extinction is going, no more they are in existence, of species is happening, and we can consider them totally happened in 5 different episodes. Then if you understand in what way the present 6th episode differs from already happened 5 episodes. So here, how is the 6th extinction? At present, we are at 6th episode of mass extinction of species. As we already stated that 5 episodes have been already finished. This happens before the existence of human race. That means pre-human period. So here, how, in what way? How is the 6th extinction presently happening? Presently in progress differs, that means different from the previous episodes, from the previous 5 episodes. It differs in terms of speed. Now the speed is very, very more when compared to the pace or the rates at which the extinctions were happening during 5 episodes. So here the difference is in the rates. Rates, nothing but speed at which the extinctions are happening. The current species extinctions rates are estimated to be more, and that more is 100 to 1000 times. This is very, very huge. 100 to 1000 times faster than the pre-human times. So we already said that there are 5 different episodes of mass extinctions of the species that happens during pre-human times. This happens at its lower rates when compared to the 6th extinction. And the 6th episode of mass extinction of species is happening 100 to 1000 times faster. And this is just because we can say that is due to human activities, human greedful activities. And our activities are responsible for the faster rates. Our human activities are responsible for all this faster rates of mass extinction that is happening in the biodiversity, right? So here, ecologists warn that if the present trends, rates, speed at which the extinctions of species is happening continues, nearly half of all the species, 50% of all the species that are present on the earth might be wiped off, cleared off, wiped out within next 100 years. Next 100 is very, very small time to see that completely 50%, half of all the species that is going to extinct. So here, these are all the effects of general effects that are coming from the loss of the biodiversity. Let's see. In general, the loss of biodiversity in a region may lead to, these are the list of the conditions which are going to happen if there is a loss of the biodiversity that is happening in a particular area. That first thing is decrease in plant productivity, plant production. Plant production is nothing but they'll produce biomass, and this biomass will be transferred to the next trophic level. That means next consumers, from the producers to the consumers. As the plant produce itself is getting very declined, it is going to show its effect on the next trophic level. The next trophic level is obviously going to be affected because the availability of the plant produce itself is declined. And this decline in the plant produce is just because of loss in the biodiversity. Now, also lowered resistance. There is a decrease in the resistance. While we are discussing about why there is a more biodiversity that we find in the case of tropic areas, we have given a reason like these tropic areas are more resistant towards the disturbances that are happening by either the natural way or by the human made. But here, the resistance towards this disturbances, and this disturbances may be like floods, earthquake, drought conditions, or even like forest fires, man-made activities like deforestation. All these disturbances, for all these disturbances, if the habitat is resilient, then we can expect increase in the biodiversity. But if there is a decrease in the biodiversity, that resistance towards the disturbances that are created by the natural mean or by the man-made mean are going to decline. That means decreased, lowered resistance to environmental disturbances. Perturbations are nothing but disturbances. Like for example, drought conditions, floods, earthquakes, or even very heavy rainfall, low rainfalls, forest fires, right? Increased variability. That means no constant conditions are maintained. See, the species expect some constant environment. if there is a rapid change that are coming from the environment, for example, very high temperatures, very low temperatures, very high availability of the light, very low availability of the light, very high availability of the water in the case of heavy rainfalls, or very low availability of the water in the case of low rainfalls or no rainfalls. These are the changes that are coming by the environment. If this is happening, the species, those who have the ability to adapt to this changes, can only sustain. And those species can't sustain, can't show the resistance towards this unconstant environment, they will become extinct. I mean, they will going to suffer, affected. So here, that consistency is missing. Increased variability in terms of climatic conditions, in terms of if the stable habitat is not there, it is going to affect the species existence. Now, increased variability in certain ecosystem processes, plant productivity. See, just now we mentioned already, plant productivity is nothing but your biomass, right? These are all the functions of ecosystem. While we are discussing about the functions of the ecosystem, we have listed down like productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycling. These are all the things. So the producers will produce, that means they perform photosynthesis. If there is a changes that are happening in the environment, it is going to show its effect on the productivity of the producers. That is what we call it as such as water, such as the plant productivity, and also water use. That means the conditions of the environment, that means the favorable abiotic factors which are coming from the ecosystem has been variable, changes are happening. And these changes will show its effect in plant productivity, water use, as well as its cycles, that is pest and disease cycles. All these are the sequences that are going to happen in the case of loss of biodiversity. Now, here, the accelerated rate means increased rate of species extinctions that the world is facing now are largely due to human activities. No doubt about this. When the need is reaching greed, level of greed, then all the man's activity, urbanization, cut down of forest, deforestations, all these are going to show a very effect which leads to the loss of biodiversity. There are four major reasons, four major causes. What we call it as a evil quartet. Evil quartet. Quartet means four. Evil quartet is a sobriquet. Sobriquet is nothing but familiar name, we can say it's a nickname. What is nickname here? Evil quartet is a nickname for the four major reasons, four major causes. And this sobriquet used to describe them. What are they? Four, as we already said, four major causes. For these four major causes, they have given a small nickname, familiar name, and that is nothing but your evil quartet. That four reasons, let's discuss. In that, the first one is habitat loss and fragmentation. Habitat loss and fragmentation. Fragmentation is dividing it into different fragments. If the large area has been divided into fragments for the various purposes, maybe they are converting into grasslands, maybe they are using forest lands for the cultivation, agriculture. Whatever the reason, if the large area has been divided into small fragments, that is nothing but fragmentation. Here, this habitat loss, what is the first? This is the first reason, right? Out of four reasons, this is the first reason. Habitat lost and fragmentation. and the second one is over-exploitation. First one, habitat loss and fragmentation. Second one is over-exploitation. Third one is the alien species invasion, and a final one is called as co-extinction. Co-extinction, right? Out of that, let us discuss about the first reason. We are discussing about the evil quartet, which includes 4 reasons, 4 major causes. Out of that, the first one is habitat loss and fragmentation. This is the most important cause driving animals and plants to extinct. What is happening in habitat loss and fragmentation? The most dramatic example of habitat loss comes from tropical rainforest. Tropical rainforest. Habitat loss, we are losing an habitat in area which supports the growth of the plants and particular plants and animals. If you lose that habitat, those organisms, whether it is plants or animals or amphibians, which have well adapted to that particular habitat, they are going to become extinct, right? Here, the best example for the habitat loss is a tropical rainforest. The tropical rainforest is known to, once it covers more than 14% of the Earth's land surface, this rainforest now covers no more than 6%. So it has dropped down and now it covers no more than 6% of the total Earth's land surface. Previously, it is covering 14%. Now it dropped down to cover only no more than 6%. Okay. So this loss in the habitat, that means this loss in here, the example is tropical rainforest. We have lost the tropical rainforest such that the plants, the animals, organisms, living organisms which are well adapted to this tropical rainforest, they also become extinct. This happens, they are being destroyed fast, and this is happening, the rate at which these extinctions are happening are very, very fast. How much fast it is, to make you to understand, this is a frame where they have given like, by the time you finish reading this chapter, we are discussing this chapter, by the time we come to the end of this chapter, 1,000 more hectares of rainforest will have been lost. This has made you to understand how fastly the extinction have been happening, and what that means how is so responsible on each and every individual to conserve our biodiversity. The Amazon rainforest, it is so huge, we already know that it is called as lungs of planet. Why we are considering this Amazon rainforest as lungs of the forest, of the planet? Because it is giving us oxygen. Amazon rainforest is having a very rich biodiversity, that is the producer's number is more. If the producer's numbers are more, it will take the carbon dioxide and release oxygen. That is what we consider this Amazon rainforest as the lungs of the planet Earth. But what is happening? The Amazon rainforest harboring means it gives the shelter. It gives shelter probably to millions of species. Is being now, this Amazon rainforest has been cut and cleared. Think that this is the Amazon rainforest where some of the parts has been cut. For what are the purpose to cut down this rainforest? For cultivating soybeans. Here cultivation of the soybeans is happening. As the soybean is newly occupying the habitat, the plants or the animals which are native of that particular habitat will be much affected and will become extinct. Or for conversion into grasslands. Conversion into grasslands. for raising beef cattle. And this beef cattle we are raising for human consumption. To get food out of this beef cattle, we are raising by making grasslands. What habitat is converted into grasslands? Amazon rainforests are converted into grasslands. This has happened by means of fragmentation. We are dividing the great Amazon rainforest to the fragments, where some of the fragments are useful for the cultivation of the soya beans, some other fragments are converted into grasslands, thereby we can raise the beef cattle. This is all the human activities. These are all the list of the human activities by which the natural habitats have been converted into another form, and the fragmentation happens, thereby there is a loss in the habitats, and finally it leads to loss of biodiversity. Now, besides this loss of habitat, besides this fragmentation that is happening, where the Amazon forest or the forest areas has been divided into so many fragments, and each fragment has been used for the different human activities. Besides this, besides total loss, the degradation of many habitats, by pollution. Again, the pollution is one of the major reasons, and for the pollution also, the responsibility has to come from the human race. Also threatens the survival of many species. That means many species are facing the threat of extinction now. So when large habitats, this we already discussed, this is all about to understand fragmentation. When large habitats, think that these are the large habitats. Large habitats are broken down into small fragments. We are dividing by laying roads in between. By urbanization, we divided this naturally available habitat into small fragments due to various human activities. Maybe it is useful for laying the roads, constructions, and converted into grasslands, useful for the cultivation of agriculture. If this is happening, meanwhile, the mammals and birds requiring large territories, large areas. So this is a natural habitat. Previously, all this natural habitat is available for the plants and animals, which needs a large area for roaming, for grazing, for living, right? For migrating, all these activities. But if this habitat have been broken down into so many fragments, that means the place is becoming constrained. All the available space is now constrained to this area, right? So mammals and birds requiring large areas, large territories, and certain animals with migratory habits are badly affected, leading to population decline, population decrease, because we constrain the area. Previously, all this area has been available freely for the migratory activities and various activities that were conducted by the that were performed by the species. Species comes like plant species, animal species, bird species. But if this larger fragments have been cut down into smaller fragments, that means larger habitat have been broken down, cut down into smaller fragments, and each fragment has been utilized by the humans for different reasons, maybe for cultivation, maybe for agriculture, maybe for making the artificial ecosystems. All this is happening. Meanwhile, the plants and the birds or the mammals which depends upon these habitats are being largely badly affected, and it is facing the extinction. That is what we tell it as a leading to the population decline. Decline is nothing but population decrease. Population decrease in the population size, decrease in the population density. Now, so here, this is all about a first reason of evil quartet, habitat loss, fragmentation. That is the first cause. Let's discuss about second cause, that is over-exploitation. If it is at the level of exploitation to meet our needs, need in terms of getting food or getting shelter, if we are exploring our nature, our ecosystem, that is fine. There in which the level where we are maintaining harmony, it is all fine. If you cross the border, if it leads to unequilibrium, unharmonized conditions, then it is considered as overuse, over-exploitation. Humans have always depended on nature for food, shelter, but when need turns to greed, it leads to over-exploitation of natural resources. This is a dangerous scenario. Right? Many species extinction happened in the last 500 years, where we have come across the list like dodo. The same thing, Steller's sea cow that were extincted in Russia, and passenger pigeon, North America, were due to over-exploitation by human. The extinction of this species, Steller's sea cow and passenger pigeon, happens due to the over-exploitation of humans. This is important, okay? Remember this species. Presently, many marine fish population around the world are over harvested. Means they have been the catching of this marine fish population is happening in such a way that it is leading to endangering the continued existence of some commercially important species. See, if we being on catching the fishes over and over and over, which leads to the over-exploitation, over-harvesting, then it definitely leads to the endangered conditions of this commercially important species. We have to maintain such a level that harvesting has to be happened, and the race also must be continued, must be in existence. It never be towards the extinction, but the existence of this, all the commercially important species has to be maintained by the human activities itself. We are responsible for all this, all to stop this over-exploitation, right? Now, third reason. First, habitat loss and fragmentation. Second, over-exploitation, over-usage of the natural resources. Third, alien species invasion. See, species diversity increases if the environment is constant, if it is undisturbed towards the invasion of foreign species. Aliens, nothing but foreign species, means that it is not native of that particular habitat. It is not indigenous species. It is a foreign. It is a foreign species. It is not native species. When an exotic species is coming into this habitat, say for example, this is habitat where we don't find any existence of this alien species. Let's for example consider this alien species as X, right? This is alien species. This X, that is alien species, is now newly introduced into this habitat. This is the habitat. Right? Let's for example Y. Y are the species which already exist in this habitat. Now, there is an introduction of this X. Okay, initially the number of the alien species will be less. But what we are telling, it is invasive. Invasive. Invasion. Invasive is nothing but quickly growing. It will occupy the whole habitat within no time. Then as the time proceeds, the alien species starts occupying all the habitat. More and more number, more and more number, more and more number, competing with the natural available resources with the species that are already existing in that habitat. Then what happens? The already existed species will affect very badly. Then it leads to the extinction of this already existed species. That means indigenous species. Now, if a foreign species is introduced into the habitat, there is a competition. There will be these organisms, both the organisms which are native and non-native, that is alien, that is foreign organism, starts competing for the naturally available resources. As the newly introduced alien species is invasive, that means it grows very fastly. It covers almost all the habitat in within no time, very fast rates. It is going to multiply. Then sooner we'll come to the situation where the already existed indigenous species are going to lost, are going to become extinct. So here, when alien, this is the alien, okay, alien. When alien species are introduced unintentionally or deliberately, that means intentionally, consciously or unconsciously, unintentionally without our knowledge, or deliberately with our knowledge, consciously we wanted it and we introduced it, whatever the way, whichever the way, for whatever purpose, maybe it is ornamental, maybe it is commercially important, whichever the possible reason for introducing it deliberately or unconsciously, unintentionally, some of them turns invasive. Invasive is nothing but which grows faster, which grows quickly, causes decline, or it may causes extinction of the indigenous, that means native, indigenous species. That means the species which is already existence, which is the native of that particular habitat. Now, for that, the example which were given in your NCERT textbook is Nile perch it is introduced into Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria, which is present in the East Africa, lead eventually to the extinction of an ecologically unique assemblage of more than 200 species of cichlid fish in the lake. Now, this is all nail perch fishes that has been introduced into the Lake Victoria. Already, the Lake Victoria have cichlid fishes. Now, as these nail perches are invasive, it starts growing in number. It starts raising its number, it starts increasing its offspring's number. then which finally leads to decrease or completely extinction of the indigenous species of Lake Victoria. Now, we must be familiar with the environmental damage caused and the threat posed to our native species by invasive weed species of Parthenium, which is a carrot grass which is growing on the lands, as well as Lantana. These are also a plant which grows on the land, and the water hyacinth which grows in water, Icania. These are all the examples of weeds where this weeds grows invasive that are going to affect very badly the indigenous species which are present in that particular habitat. So this is a picture of Icania, water hyacinth, terror of Bengal, where it is going to cover, we can't see the water beneath it. The surface of the water has been completely covered with the invasive growth of the Icania, such that the availability of the light is going to reduce for the remaining aquatic organisms that are present in the water habitats, right? Now, the recent illegal introduction of African catfish, the same thing here also. This is the catfish, and that is Clarias garipinus. Clarias garipinus. It's a African catfish which has been illegally introduced into an for the aquaculture purpose, and it is affecting very badly, posing a threat towards the indigenous, that is a native species. Native species, that is catfishes in our rivers. By this, the number of as this alien fish number is increasing, it competes for the availability of the natural resources, and it shows its effect on the growth of indigenous catfish that are present in the rivers, right? Now, so we have discussed about the three major causes, starting with habitat loss, fragmentation, right? And over-exploitation. And the third one is alien species invasive, alien species invasions, right? And the final cause that comes in evil quartet, right? Quartet. This is the fourth one, and that is co-extinctions. Extinctions that happens parallelly. Two species together go extinct, become extinct. When a species become extinct, the plant and animal species associated with it, obligatory, compulsive association. Without it, the other species can't lead its life. May also become extinct. For example, there are two species, right? This is one species, species A, and this is another species, species B. Species A depends upon species B, and species B depends upon species A. Very one-to-one relationship. This relation is very tight, one-to-one relationship. Species A always depends upon the species B, and species B always depends upon the species A. Now what happened? By some reason, the species A become extinct. It become extinct. As we already said that the life of the species B is obligatory depends upon the species A. As a species A become extinct, it is no more available, it is no more in existence, then obviously the species B also become extinct. So this is happening where two species are going to become extinct. That is what? One-to-one relationship. This happens in the case of co-evolution. While we are discussing about mutualism, where the two species, interacting species, will get benefited out of it. That means species A is helping species B and species B is helping species A. In this, there is an co-evolution to meet their needs, right? While we are explaining an example of archid, aphrys, and bee association, where aphrys, it's a flower, right? One of it's a archid flower where one of its petal will take the resemblances, will look alike to the female bee. Whether in in the case of size, color or markings, one of the petal of this flower resembles very close to the female bee. Now this male bee assumes that petal as a female bee comes close to the plant. While it is happening, there is a chance of pollinating. There is a chance of that flower getting pollinated by the bee. Here, both archid and bee is getting its food by means of pollens and nectar, and aphrys is getting its pollination done. This is called as one-to-one relationship. Both the species are being benefited. In this, both the species have shown co-evolution. For example, if there is no bee, for some reason in this example, the bee become extinct. As the bee is not available to pollinate the flower of this archid, this archid flowers, archid plants also soon become extinct. That is what we call it as a co-extinction. Now, when a host fish species become extinct, its unique assemblage of parasite also meets the same fate. That means it also become extinct. Assume this is the fish where it is harboring some ectoparasites. If there is no or endoparasites, either the way, it is harboring some parasites. If this fish become extinct, obviously the parasites will also become extinct. Here both parasites as well as fish are going to extinct. That is what we call it as a co-extinctions, right? Another example, just now we said that in the case of co-evolved, evolution happens both in the species, both in the interacting species. If you consider A and B are the two species which are in close association with one another. Both species are in one-to-one relationship. That means species A is helping species B is getting help from the species A. So here another example is a case of co-evolved plant pollinator. Plant pollinator mutualism. Just now I said that, where extinction of one invariably leads to the extinction of the other. If A become extinct, that means plants are extincted, then this pollinator will not get the food as it is co-evolved to meet the needs of the plant and to get its own benefits. Both plant and pollinators are existing in a mutualism, one-to-one relationship. As one species is not there, it will not get its help. It will not get its support. Therefore, the other species also will go extinct. This is what concept is called as co-extinction. Co-extinction happens in the case of species where they co-evolve, right? Okay. So these are all the 4 reasons where we have discussed in detail about all the 4 reasons that contributes for the loss of the biodiversity, starting from habitat loss and fragmentation, over-exploitation, alien species invasions, and finally co-extinctions. So this is it for today's class. Catch you in the next session. Until then, keep learning with We Learning. Thank you.